So
one thing, I think you had another question that was embedded in your first question, and I think that was what was the cubic yards of the hot spots?
Right, compared to the one level that, right.
okay. The cubic yards, off the top of my head, I don't have that, but it's on the order of around 20,000 cubic yards. So keep in mind that we've been talking mostly about the landfill.
20,000 of hot spots?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh. So the containment alternative that we're proposing involves capping of the landfill, and then in areas that are adjacent to the landfill, such as the PCB hotspot, there's still a portion of that needs to be excavated. Digging up that material, and also digging up contaminated material, albeit not hotspots, but lower level contamination right up against the bay, and actually pulling that material back and placing it further upland, and then capping that. So that's essentially part of the overall amount of soil that would be moved. Some of it going off-site, let's say 20,000 cubic yards would be excavated as hotspots and be sent off-site for disposal. An additional, approximately 50 or 60,000 yards of material would be moved around away from sensitive areas like the edge of the bay and be placed further upland where it would then be capped. So that's part of this containment alternative that we're evaluating. And part of that is to establish wetlands near the shoreline, as well as create a stable shoreline protection feature along the remaining part of parcel E2.
So I don't want to take too many more questions at the time, but just to follow up on that. So there's 20,000 cubic yards of what you would say are hot spots, no nasty stuff. Then there's another 50 or 60 that's not so bad that you would move away and put somewhere else on the base.
Yeah. It's basically,
why wouldn't you just take out the whole 70, 80 and just, if you're gonna, why wouldn't you just remove it completely?
Well, that's the situation is that you're looking at concentrations based on risk-based levels, and so from those risk-based levels, you're able to identify, what would be considered hotspots, things that are orders of magnitude larger than, what would be a, sort of a bare minimum acceptable level, and things beyond that would not necessarily pose a risk to humans if they were capped appropriately. And then the other important thing is that if the areas that are hotspots mostly are hotspots because there's a potential for contamination to leach from the soil into the groundwater and out to the bay. And that is actually what's driving a lot of this hotspot removal. You have PCB contamination, petroleum hydrocarbons in soil and groundwater very close to the bay. And so that's really the purpose of pulling that material away from the sensitive bay habitat and then containing it in an upland location so that future users of the parcel would be protected from it, as well as it being under an engineered system that doesn't pose a risk to wildlife in the bay.
Ms. Jackson.